For a moment, neither of them moved. The girl's lips trembled, her fingers clutching the edge of the curtain as if it could shield her from the world. Ethan lowered the light, softening his voice. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." She didn't answer. Her clothes were soaked, her hair clinging to her face, and there was a bruise near her collarbone. Faded, but there. Ethan swallowed hard. "You shouldn't be here. This is private property." Her eyes darted toward the window, the rain still pouring outside. She looked too fragile to even stand. Ethan sighed and stepped back, giving her space. "You're shivering. Come on, at least dry off. You can leave after." She hesitated, then slowly rose, her knees wobbling. He noticed how she winced when she put weight on one foot. "Are you hurt?" "No," she whispered, her voice almost inaudible. "Just tired." Ethan nodded and led her to the living room. The fire was still burning faintly from earlier. He tossed another log in, letting warmth spill into the silence. She stood by the edge, not daring to sit. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily," she murmured. He smiled faintly. "I'm Ethan." For a few minutes, only the crackle of the fire spoke. Her gaze roamed the room, the framed art, the marble floors, the walls that seemed to belong to another universe. She wrapped her arms tighter around herself. Ethan handed her a towel and a glass of water. "You hungry?" Her head jerked up, eyes wide. She nodded hesitantly. He motioned toward the kitchen. "Wait here. I'll get something." As he disappeared, Lily looked around again. Everything seemed unreal, the kind of place she had only ever seen through store windows or magazine pages. When Ethan returned with soup and bread, she whispered a thank you that barely reached his ears. They ate in quiet. Each spoonful seemed to ease her trembling a little. Finally, he asked, "Why were you hiding here?" She froze mid-bite. "I didn't mean to," she said softly. "I just needed somewhere dry for the night. The gate was open and I thought no one lived here." Ethan nodded, trying to process. "You don't have a home?" Her lips pressed together. "Not anymore." The words landed heavier than he expected. He didn't ask further, not yet. Something in her tone warned him that questions might break her open too soon. After a pause, he said, "You can stay for tonight. There's a guest room upstairs." Her head snapped up, startled. "You're letting me stay? It's late." "You shouldn't be out in that weather." She blinked as if kindness itself was foreign. "Thank you," she whispered, her eyes glistening. Ethan smiled faintly. "You don't need to thank me." As she stood, he noticed how her gaze flickered toward the front door, as though she still couldn't believe this was real. The mansion that once felt empty suddenly had a heartbeat again. That night, as rain kept falling and thunder rolled far away, Ethan found himself standing by his window, unable to sleep. He didn't know who Lily was or where she came from, but her silence carried stories, painful, untold ones. He thought of her fragile hands holding the warm bowl like it was the first bit of comfort she'd had in years. He realized how strange it was, a billionaire surrounded by everything money could buy. Yet it was a stranger's quiet gratitude that made the house feel alive again. He poured himself a glass of water, lost in thought. Maybe, he thought, some people don't enter your life by accident. Maybe they stumble in when you've forgotten how to feel. Down the hall, Lily lay awake too. Her eyes traced the soft glow under the door, her mind a storm of memories she wished she could forget. But for the first time in weeks, she wasn't cold, and that warmth, however small, was enough to keep her breathing through the night. Morning sunlight slipped through the wide glass windows, painting soft gold lines across the marble floor. Ethan found himself in the kitchen earlier than usual, sleeves rolled up, making coffee he barely needed. He'd spent half the night wondering if Lily was still there, or if she had vanished like a dream. But when he turned, she was standing in the doorway wearing one of his oversized hoodies. Her hair was still damp, her eyes cautious but calmer than last night. "Good morning," he said, breaking the silence. She hesitated. "Morning," he motioned to the table. "Sit. You should eat something." She obeyed quietly, glancing around like she was afraid of breaking something just by breathing. The aroma of toast and eggs filled the air, but she only picked at her food. "You didn't sleep much, did you?" he asked. Her lips twitched. Not used to soft beds. He almost smiled. Almost. Then you'll have to get used to them. For a second, something fragile and warm flickered across her face. A kind of disbelief that kindness could still exist. When she finished eating, Ethan leaned back. Lily, I don't mean to pry, but are you running from someone? Her spoon stopped mid-air. The color drained from her face. No, she said quickly, too quickly. Just from life, maybe. Ethan didn't push further. He simply nodded. You can stay until you figure things out. I don't need a reason. Her eyes shimmered, confusion mixing with gratitude. Why are you helping me? He thought for a long moment. Because once someone helped me when I didn't deserve it either. Her gaze softened, her defenses faltering. And for the first time she smiled. Faintly, but it reached her eyes. If you were there in that moment, what would you have done? Be honest, comment your answer below. And if words fail you, just hit like to prove that compassion still matters. The next few days passed quietly. Lily didn't talk much, but her presence began to fill the silence that had haunted Ethan for years. She cleaned the kitchen, helped water the garden, even repaired a broken lamp in the study. Ethan pretended not to notice, but he did. Every small act of hers chipped away at the emptiness he'd grown used to. One evening, he came home early to find her sitting by the piano. Her fingers brushed softly against the keys, hesitant, like someone remembering a language they'd once spoken fluently. You play? He asked, she startled, pulling her hand back. Not anymore, he smiled. You just did, her cheeks flushed. It's been years. Play something, he said gently. After a long pause, she placed her hands on the keys again. A slow, aching melody filled the air, raw and imperfect, but heartbreakingly beautiful. It carried sorrow, love, and something else. Forgiveness. Ethan stood quietly, afraid that even breathing too loud might break the spell. When she finished, she turned to him, eyes shining with tears. My mom used to play that song. Before everything went wrong? What happened? He asked softly, her breath hitched. She died, and I lost everything after that. The words hung between them, fragile as glass. Ethan wanted to ask more, but he saw the pain trembling in her voice. He simply said, I'm sorry, Lily. She nodded, blinking fast. I used to think music could fix things, but when she died, I stopped believing that. Ethan moved closer, his voice quiet but certain. Maybe music doesn't fix things. Maybe it just reminds us we're still human. For the first time, Lily didn't look away. Later that night, when Ethan walked past the guest room, he heard faint humming, the same tune. It made him pause, his heart unexpectedly heavy and light all at once. He realized then kindness wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was just a safe space to breathe, and maybe that was what Lily needed most. But something inside him also shifted. Because in helping her, he was starting to heal too. Days turned into weeks, and the mansion began to feel different. The quiet that once echoed like a ghost now carried life. Footsteps, soft laughter, faint piano notes drifting down the hall. Ethan often caught himself listening for them, as though those sounds alone kept him grounded. One afternoon, he found Lily in the garden, kneeling beside a broken flower pot. Dirt streaked her hands, but she smiled when she saw him. I'm sorry. I think I overwatered it, he chuckled. You're learning. That's what matters, she shrugged, brushing soil off her palms. Guess I'm better at breaking things than fixing them. Ethan knelt beside her. That's not true. You fixed this place more than you realize. Her eyes flickered up, puzzled. What do you mean? He gestured toward the mansion behind them. Before you came, this house was just walls and furniture. Now it feels like someone actually lives here. She looked down, silent for a moment, then whispered, You don't know me, Ethan. If you did, you wouldn't say that. He frowned, sensing the weight beneath her words. Then help me understand. Lily hesitated, her hands trembling slightly. There's not much to understand. I grew up with nothing. My mom tried her best, but after she passed, I got thrown around, shelters, streets, people who promised help, but wanted something else in return. Her voice cracked. When you found me here, I hadn't eaten in 2 days. Ethan's jaw tightened. You've been through that alone? She nodded, eyes glistening. You asked why I hid here. Because I didn't know where else to go. I thought maybe, if I could just rest for one night, I'd find the strength to keep going. He stared at her for a long moment, then looked away, fighting the ache rising in his chest. You're stronger than you think, Lily. Her lip quivered. Strong doesn't mean okay. That line pierced him more than she knew. Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would? Write yes and tell me their name. Maybe gratitude can travel further than we think. A light drizzle began to fall, but Lily didn't move. She stared at the small flowers swaying in the rain, lost in her memories. Ethan took off his jacket and gently draped it over her shoulders. You don't have to keep running, he said quietly. You're safe here. Her eyes widened. The word safe seemed foreign to her, almost unbelievable. People always say that, she murmured, until they change their minds. Ethan met her gaze. Then I'll prove I won't. The air between them thickened with something unsaid, a fragile trust trying to take root. Inside later, as the rain strengthened, Ethan offered her tea. She sat across from him, fingers wrapped tightly around the warm cup. I don't get it, she said suddenly. You don't even know me. Why do you care? He leaned back, considering his answer. Because I used to be lost too, her brow furrowed. You? He nodded. Money doesn't keep you from breaking. It just hides the cracks better. Lily looked at him differently then, like she was seeing beyond the surface of luxury and marble. What happened? He smiled sadly. Maybe another time. She didn't press. Maybe she understood that pain recognized its own reflection. That night, Ethan found himself in his study, staring at an old photo on his desk. His parents, smiling, before the car accident that had changed everything. The memory still hit like cold water. He realized he hadn't told anyone about them in years, not even his friends. But Lily, a stranger, had made him want to talk again. Upstairs, she sat by the window, watching the rain turn the garden into rippling mirrors. She whispered softly to herself, Why him? Why now? Maybe fate doesn't send people to save us. Maybe it sends them to remind us we're still worth saving. The house, once too big for one man's loneliness, now held two souls who didn't yet realize they were healing each other simply by existing under the same roof. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the curtains and painted the living room in shades of soft gold. Lily stood by the window, tracing the edges of the glass, watching birds settle on the fence. Ethan entered quietly, holding 2 mugs of coffee. You were up early, he said, setting one on the table. She nodded, half smiling. Couldn't sleep. The quiet's still strange to me. He leaned against the doorway. You'll get used to it. Peace feels uncomfortable at first, when you've lived in chaos too long. Her eyes met his briefly, as if those words struck somewhere deep. After breakfast, Ethan got a call from his assistant about a charity event scheduled that evening, a fundraiser for children's shelters. Normally, he would attend out of obligation, say the right things, and leave before dessert. But this time he hesitated. Would you want to come? He asked suddenly. Lily blinked. Me to a charity event? He shrugged. Why not? You could use a night out. It's formal, but it's not about showing off. It's about helping. Her brows furrowed. I don't belong in places like that. You do now, Ethan said gently. And maybe you'll see that people like you belong everywhere. She looked uncertain, but something about the way he said it, firm, believing, made her nod slowly. Okay, she whispered. Now it's your turn. Share one small good thing you did recently. Write it below so others remember that humanity still lives. Your story might light someone's path tonight. By evening, Lily stood in front of a mirror, wearing a simple navy blue dress that one of Ethan's friends from a nearby boutique had sent over. It wasn't fancy, but it made her feel seen, something she hadn't felt in years. Ethan, adjusting his tie nearby, caught her reflection. You look perfect, he said quietly. She turned, embarrassed but smiling. You're just being nice. He shook his head. No, I'm being honest. When they arrived, the ballroom glimmered with chandeliers and soft music. People greeted Ethan warmly, though their eyes often lingered on Lily, curious, judgmental, polite only by habit. She shifted uncomfortably, Ethan noticed and leaned closer. Ignore them. Most of them only see what money tells them to. She glanced up at him, a silent thank you in her eyes. As speeches filled the air, Lily wandered to a small corner where children from one of the supported shelters were painting on easels. She knelt beside a little girl, maybe 6 years old, whose drawing was a house surrounded by stars. That's beautiful, Lily said softly. The girl smiled shyly. It's my home. I don't have one yet, but I will. Something in that sentence cracked Lily open. She blinked away tears and whispered, You will. I know you will. Ethan watched from afar. The way Lily's whole demeanor shifted when she spoke to that child, as if she saw herself reflected there. When the little girl hugged her before leaving, Lily froze, then hugged back tightly, her hands trembling. Later, as they walked out into the night air, she spoke quietly. That girl reminded me of me. I used to draw houses like that too, before everything fell apart. Ethan didn't say much. He just placed his jacket around her shoulders. Then maybe tonight was meant for you as much as for them. She gave a small, broken laugh. You talk like you believe in fate, he smiled faintly. I didn't, until lately. The car ride home was quiet, but it wasn't empty. Lily looked out the window, her reflection caught in passing lights, and for once she didn't look lost, just thoughtful. When they reached the mansion, she paused before going inside. Ethan, yeah? Thank you. Not just for tonight, for seeing me like I'm someone. He met her gaze, steady and warm. You are someone, Lily, you always were. The words landed deep, like sunlight finally reaching a place long forgotten. She turned away before he could see the tears fall, but Ethan noticed anyway. That night, neither of them slept early. Somewhere between gratitude and guilt, something was changing, slowly, tenderly, inside them both. They didn't name it yet. They just felt it. For the next few days, life moved in quiet rhythm. Lily read books from Ethan's library, watered the plants, and sometimes played the piano when she thought no one was listening. Ethan, though busier than ever, found reasons to come home early. He told himself it was coincidence, but deep down he knew better. The mansion finally felt like home again, and he didn't want to miss a single moment of it. But peace rarely lasts long when the past hasn't finished speaking. One evening, Ethan returned from a meeting to find Lily sitting on the steps outside, her face pale, eyes fixed on the gate. In her hands was a folded piece of paper, crumpled, damp with tears. Lily? He said, stepping closer. She didn't move. Someone came by while you were gone, she whispered. His stomach tightened. Who? A man, he knew my name. Said I owed him, Ethan froze. Owed him what? Her voice broke. Money. From before. I worked at a diner. And when it shut down, I borrowed some to survive. He said if I didn't pay, he'd fine me. I thought I'd left that behind. Ethan knelt beside her, taking the paper from her trembling hands. It was a threat, crude and handwritten. The anger that surged through him was cold and sharp. You're safe here. I'll handle it? She shook her head. No, I don't want trouble because of me. I'll leave tonight. He caught her wrist gently. You're not leaving. Tears welled in her eyes. Ethan, I can't stay if it puts you at risk. He held her gaze steady and unyielding. You don't have to protect me, Lily, not from this. For the first time, she didn't argue. She just broke, quietly, painfully, like glass under gentle pressure. If that moment hit you hard, leave a day. Sometimes one little symbol says what our hearts can't. That night, Ethan made calls, quiet ones. Within hours, the threatening man was found by local authorities. But when he told Lily, she didn't smile. She sat on the edge of her bed, eyes distant. You fixed it, she whispered. Just like that. It's over, he said softly. You can rest now, she shook her head. It's not about him. It's about me. I've spent so long surviving that I forgot how to live. You keep saving me and I don't even know how to deserve it. Ethan sat beside her. You don't have to deserve kindness. You just have to accept it. Her tears slipped quietly down her cheeks. I don't know how. He hesitated, then placed a hand over hers. Then I'll teach you. Lily looked at him, really looked at him, and something unspoken passed between them. Not romance, not yet. It was something purer. Recognition. Two souls learning to breathe again. Later that night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He wandered down to the piano, where faint moonlight touched the keys. Sitting there, he played the melody Lily had once played, the one that carried her mother's memory. Upstairs, Lily heard it. She stepped to her door, hand on the frame, listening as the notes floated upward. A small, fragile smile formed through her tears. She closed her eyes, and for the first time, the music didn't hurt. It healed. In the days that followed, something shifted. Lily started humming again when she cooked. Ethan caught her laughing once, a sound so rare it stopped him mid-step. And for that brief moment, he realized how much light one person could bring into another's darkness. But deep down, both knew they were walking a fragile line. Ethan had money and security. Lily had ghosts she still hadn't faced. And though they were growing closer, the world outside still had a way of testing fragile peace. Still, for now, they allowed themselves this quiet. The calm before the storm neither of them knew was coming. Rain came again, heavy and relentless, like the night she first arrived. Ethan watched it pour through the tall windows, his reflection faint beside the glass. He'd grown used to Lily's presence, the way her voice softened the air, the way her laughter lived between moments of silence. But tonight, that laughter was gone. He found her sitting on the floor of the music room, papers scattered around her, old letters, photographs, a few worn-out receipts. Her eyes were red. Lily, he said gently. She didn't look up. I found them while cleaning the storage room. My mom's letters. I didn't think I'd ever see them again. Ethan stepped closer. They were yours? She nodded, voice trembling. I left them behind when I ran from our apartment. I didn't have the strength to go back. I thought I'd lost the last part of her. He crouched beside her. Maybe they came back when you were ready to face them. Her hands shook as she held one of the letters. She always wrote about hope. Even when she was sick, she'd say, no matter how dark it gets, baby, light always finds you. I hated those words for years. I thought they were lies. Ethan listened quietly. And now? Lily looked up, her eyes glistening. Now I'm starting to believe she might have been right. He smiled faintly. She was. For a moment, they sat there in silence, two broken souls, holding fragments of a life that somehow fit together again. Then came the sound, a knock at the door, firm, unexpected. Ethan stood, his heart tightening. At the entrance stood a woman in her mid-50s, soaked and exhausted. I'm looking for Lily Hart, she said. Is she here? Lily froze. The color drained from her face. Ms. Turner? She whispered. Ethan turned to her, confused. Who is she? My social worker, Lily said faintly. From before I disappeared. Be honest. Could you forgive after what they did? Type forgive if you could, or never if it would break you too deeply. Ms. Turner stepped inside, her eyes kind but tired. Lily, we've been searching for you for months. You can't just vanish. We thought... I didn't mean to, Lily interrupted. I just couldn't handle the shelters anymore. I thought I'd be safer on my own, the woman sighed. You're not in trouble, sweetheart. But you know how this works. You can't stay here indefinitely without proper arrangements. Ethan's jaw tightened. She's not on the streets. She's with me, safe. I can see that, Ms. Turner replied. But laws don't bend for kindness. She needs a stable program, documentation. I'll handle it, Ethan said quickly. Whatever it takes. Legal guardianship, sponsorship, whatever she needs. Lily looked at him, eyes wide. Ethan, no. You don't have to... He turned to her, voice firm but soft. Yes, I do. Ms. Turner hesitated, her expression softening. You care about her? I do, Ethan admitted. She changed more than my house. She changed me. The room fell quiet. Rain whispered against the glass like applause from the heavens. Lily clutched the letters to her chest. I don't want to lose this. Not again. Ms. Turner looked between them, her eyes moist. Maybe you don't have to. Let me see what I can do. After she left, Lily stood still, unable to speak. Then slowly, she whispered, Why would you do all this for me? Ethan took a deep breath. Because I know what it feels like to be found when you've already given up on being seen. Her tears fell freely now. Ethan, you don't know what this means. He brushed a tear from her cheek, his hand lingering for just a second too long. Maybe I do. The thunder rolled again outside, but neither of them moved. The space between them was full of fear, gratitude, and something deeper that neither dared to name yet. Days passed in a fragile calm. The rain stopped, but its scent lingered. Damp earth, soft wind, and something new in the air. Hope, maybe. Lily spent mornings helping the staff clean the mansion's gardens. She'd hum softly while brushing away fallen leaves, her hands steady now, not trembling like before. Ethan would watch from the balcony, pretending to read, though every time she smiled, his page remained the same. One afternoon, she came running into his study, clutching a letter. It's from Ms. Turner, she said, her voice a mix of nerves and excitement. She found a program, a scholarship for girls like me. It covers college, housing, everything. Ethan's heart twisted. That's incredible, Lily nodded, but her smile wavered. It's in another city. 2 states away. The air stilled. The clock on the wall ticked louder, cruelly steady. When do you leave? He asked quietly. Next week, she said almost in a whisper. She said it's the opportunity of a lifetime. My mom would have wanted me to go. Ethan looked away, eyes fixed on the window. Then you should. Lily studied him for a moment. You don't sound happy? He gave a small, hollow laugh. Happy isn't the right word. Proud, maybe. Scared, definitely. She took a hesitant step forward. You've given me more than anyone ever has, Ethan. But I don't want to leave you alone again. You won't be leaving me, he said, his voice softer now. You'll just be proving what I already knew. That kindness doesn't end where it starts. Her eyes filled again, tears balancing between strength and sorrow. Will you visit me? If you promise to keep chasing the light your mother talked about, he said. She smiled faintly. Deal! That night, neither of them could sleep. Lily sat by the piano, running her fingers over the keys. No melody, just soft touches, like she was memorizing the sound of her goodbye. Ethan leaned against the door frame, silent. I never asked, she said suddenly without looking back. Why did you live here all alone? He hesitated. After my wife died, I thought I was meant to. The house became a shell, just walls and ghosts. Until you walked in and gave it a heartbeat again. Lily turned slowly. Ethan, he smiled sadly. You were never a burden, Lily. You were the reason I remembered what it feels like to care again. Her eyes shimmered. You'll be okay without me? He nodded, though his throat tightened. I'll be proud. That's better than okay. If you believe love still wins, comment Amen. Let's fill this section with hope. Maybe someone scrolling right now needs to see it. The morning of her departure came too soon. The mansion felt quieter than it ever had before. Her small suitcase stood by the door, worn, patched, but full of dreams. Ethan helped her load it into the taxi waiting outside. The sky was golden, the air light after days of rain. She stood before him, hands trembling slightly. You sure you won't come with me to the station? He shook his head gently. This is your journey. It starts with your steps, not mine. Lily bit her lip, fighting tears. Thank you. For finding me. For not sending me away that night. He smiled. A real soft one. Thank you for reminding me what it means to be human. She reached out and hugged him, tight, like she was trying to remember the feeling forever. For a moment, Ethan closed his eyes and let the world stop. The birds, the wind, everything. When she finally stepped into the car, she turned back one last time. Her lips moved, barely audible. Goodbye. As the car drove away, Ethan stood still on the gravel path, his hand raised halfway before falling to his side. The wind brushed against his face, carrying the echo of her laughter through the open gates. The mansion behind him no longer felt empty. Somehow, in her leaving, she had left more of herself than he'd ever had before. Months passed. Seasons changed, and the garden outside Ethan's mansion bloomed again, brighter, fuller than before. Yet every flower reminded him of Lily's laughter, of her presence that once filled the halls with warmth. Her room remained untouched, the books still stacked on the nightstand, the piano still holding the faint scent of her perfume. Some evenings, Ethan would sit there with a cup of tea, reading the letters she'd sent him since leaving. They arrived like clockwork. Once every 2 weeks, filled with stories of campus life, her struggles, her small victories. But one letter arrived different. Thicker envelope, shakier handwriting. He opened it with trembling hands. "Dear Ethan, if you're reading this, it means I finally did something brave. I spoke at a student event today. I told them about the night I hid in your mansion, scared, hopeless, and ready to give up. And I told them about the man who didn't just give me shelter, but gave me belief. I wish you could have seen their faces when I said this line. Sometimes angels don't have wings. They just have spare rooms and kind eyes. You changed me, Ethan, but what you didn't know is you also changed others through me. I used the scholarship money to start a small support group for homeless teens. We call it the Lighthouse, because you once told me light always finds us, even when we stop looking." "You were right." Tears blurred Ethan's vision as he read. The paper trembled in his hands. He leaned back, exhaling slowly. A smile, small but sure, curved across his lips. "She did it," he whispered. "She really did it." He closed his eyes, letting the quiet fill the room. And for the first time in years, it didn't feel lonely. It felt peaceful. Outside, the sunset spilled gold through the tall windows, painting the walls with the same warm glow that had once danced in Lily's eyes. If this story moved you, don't scroll past quietly. Tap like. Not for me, but for the soul who carried her pain and still stayed kind. One click can be your way of saying, "I felt you." Weeks later, a knock echoed through the front door. Ethan opened it and froze. There she was, Lily, standing on the porch, older, steadier, her eyes bright with that same fierce kindness. In her hands, she held a framed photo, a group of smiling kids under a banner that read, "The Lighthouse Foundation." "You didn't tell me you were visiting," Ethan said, his voice trembling between joy and disbelief. She smiled. "I wanted to surprise you." He stepped aside, and she walked in. The moment she crossed the threshold, it felt as if time folded back, bringing life with it. "You did it," he said softly, his voice catching. "No," she whispered. "We did." They stood in silence for a while, two hearts that had once been broken, now mended in ways neither could have imagined. Finally, Lily walked over to the piano and sat down. "Do you remember the song?" Ethan chuckled, wiping a tear. "I never forgot." Her fingers danced over the keys, gentle, sure. The melody filled the mansion once more, only this time it didn't sound lonely. It sounded like home. When the last note faded, Lily turned to him and said quietly, "You once told me light always finds you." "You were right, Ethan. I found mine. And now I help others find theirs." He swallowed hard, his voice low. "And you brought it back here." They smiled. No words. Just the kind of silence that says everything. The camera of life would have pulled back then. The old mansion glowing in the dusk. Two souls framed by golden light, the piano's echo lingering like a heartbeat. Sometimes, the greatest stories aren't about riches or loss. They're about how kindness, the quiet kind, builds bridges between hearts that were never supposed to meet. And sometimes, that's enough to change everything. Moral: kindness isn't charity, it's a mirror. When you reflect it, you see yourself as you were always meant to be.